1-844-500-4242. This hour of the Howie Carr Show is brought to you in part by the Car Guys. Do what I did and what Grace did and call the Car Guys to get a great used car. Call their new number, 800-300-4600. So we're going to have her on. So we at this time usually on Mondays, and we have her on today. We have on Ann Coulter, and we have her on screen. And she's graciously agreed to be the guinea pig. I've got a new camera set up in Florida, so that I could do the show out of Florida, and we wanted to see how it worked. And Ann, thank you very much for being my guinea pig here today for the show. How's it? How is it?
No, I think you tricked me into this. I thought I was going to be in studio with you as I was once before. But if you're down here more often, then fine, I'll be your guinea pig.
Well, you can come on. When I'm here, when I'm in Florida, you can come by and we can hang out there at the new studio.
I know.
So it's nice.
Like it. It almost looks like your apartment.
Anyway, Ann, I gotta clear something up here. The texters, I said I had lunch with you on Friday, and the texter said, "Who bought?" And so you tell the people who picked up the tab.
You have always very graciously bought me dinner, bought me brunch, and that was even with my friend Mustafa. No, you have always graciously paid Howie Carr. I don't know why your listeners don't believe that.
I don't know. Where did I get this reputation as a cheap bastard?
It's because he picks soda cans out of the trash can for the 5-cent return.
That's to prevent the state of Massachusetts from getting them. And being a lawyer, you understand the concept of escheatage. And I don't want to help them out. I want to take the money. Better the money is in my pocket than the state of Massachusetts. Anyway, and so are the celebrations continuing in South Florida with the death of Fidel Castro?
They? Are they? Yeah, no. People seem pretty happy in Florida.
Yeah,
we got both Trump and Fidel dead. This has been a good month.
It certainly has. It certainly. They say these things happen in threes, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I won't say anything on PC, but
right.
We can all root for our own particular moonbat that we want to check out next. So it's really weird. Here are the people that know Fidel best down in South Florida, where you are, where I was. They're going crazy celebrating, and yet again in the newsrooms of America, it must be it's like what it must have been like on Radio Moscow when Joe Stalin died in 1953. They're doing everything but playing a funeral march. I was just reading. Go ahead.
Or at the Javits Center election night.
Yeah, I know. They're just crazy. Hey, and before we go any further, though, you heard about the attack in Columbus, Ohio today?
Yes, and I found myself, I was curious about who the attacker was, and first I tweeted out as soon as the news broke that, oh, what a surprise, it's a Somali legal permanent resident, a refugee. And I realized as I was looking for this information, and so my next tweet was, if you wanted to know about the attacker at OSU, would you go to A, New York Times, B, the Washington Post, or C, the Drudge Report? And yeah, of course, the Drudge Report. I doubt the New York Times has reported it yet. And in fact, the New York Times cover page, I mean, I don't know, this seems like kind of a big story to me. It sure would be if this were a white guy using a gun, I promise you that. But the headlines on the New York Times 2 hours after it happened were still about, the evil, dangerous, frightening Steve Bannon and Trump's conflicts of interest, which I do think is an issue, but it shouldn't be coming from the New York Times. And way, way, way down on the webpage, you finally got a little developing story about something happening at Ohio State.
I was keeping my mind open as to who had done it when the initial report said a gun, right? So you don't know. But then when I heard the magic M word, machete, and then as you say, as the minutes and then the hours go by and you don't have the name. I mean, what other conclusion can you possibly reach? Other than that they're.
Yes.
So it turns out it's Abdul Razak Artan. I read earlier, and you probably haven't seen this yet. You were coming over to the new studio there where you are, the beautiful new studio. He was profiled in one of these alumni magazines at OSU as one of the new students. Humans of Ohio State. I just transferred from Columbus State. We had prayer rooms, like actual rooms where you could go to pray because we Muslims have to pray 5 times a day. And then he goes down about all the times and what they call each occasion of prayer. I'm a Muslim. It's not what the media portrays me to be. If people look at me, a Muslim praying, I don't know what they're going to think. What's going to happen? Well, I guess now we know what's going to happen, don't we, Ann?
Yes, and he's right. He is not the way the media portray Muslims. They portray them all as, making our country diversity is beautiful, and these horrible right-wing males who are suspicious of Muslims. No, it's another example of where, your most politically incorrect assumption, probably a good way to stay safe.
Yeah, I know. And, and again, this is another reason to be grateful for Donald Trump, because Hillary Clinton said that she wanted to increase the number of refugees coming from these countries 5-fold. I mean, that was
really.
Go ahead.
So it's just so crazy that we are doing this. It's not as if this is a natural process. This is the government deciding to reach out and bring people from not only the most different, but the most backward cultures to our country. And why? Because, as I also tweeted yesterday, because I noticed there was a picture of Eric Trump standing with a lifelong Democrat saying, met this guy on the campaign trail, he's a lifelong Democrat, he's switched party registration in order to vote for Trump. And I've just noticed this for years now. I know lots of Americans who have switched parties, and it's pretty much 100% Democrat to Republican. The Democrats realize they not only can't get Americans to vote for them, but as they get crazier and crazier, their pool of voters is shrinking dramatically. So what do? They bring in the third world to vote for them. That's the only reason for this. Every time you see a woman in a hijab, all kinds of welfare receiving criminal immigrants, I always look at them and think, why aren't you a tall blonde Norwegian?
Yeah, the silver lining to this horrible event at Ohio State was that Abdul Razak Artan is dead before his EBT card could reload at midnight, I guess, on Wednesday. So I assume that's going to be okay. Listen, Dr. Jill Stein, who's leading the charge now to have these recounts. What do you make of these recounts, Ann?
I haven't even tweeted or paid attention. It's just the Democrats being sore losers. They do this after every election. You'll remember, though, a lot of your listeners may not. Kerry did it after he lost in 2004. Remember that? There was that big thing about how the voting machine, the Diebold Corporation had hacked the voting machines in Ohio. And of course,
the evil black man, Secretary of State Ken Blackwell.
Right, that's right.
Yeah, and he still thinks, he's from Boston, and his brother is a partner at a big law firm downtown. Kerry still thinks the election was stolen from him. He's going to go to his grave thinking that he should have been president.
He also thinks he was a war hero, but we know better, Howie. You had the famous Al Gore, dragging the whole country through that until December. And also, I believe it was in 2008 when they were anticipating, the media and the Democrats, that Obama would win the Electoral College, but not the popular vote. For weeks in advance, Lawrence O'Donnell, all these shows on MSNBC were explaining the importance of the Electoral College and why it's in our Constitution. It's just, whatever works in a storm. I don't think anyone really takes it seriously. And from what I understand, though, again, I haven't really paid that much attention to it, Jill Stein is just doing it to raise money. She said she won't necessarily, she's on GoFundMe. She said she won't necessarily use the money she collects in order to push for the recount.
Yeah, she needed $1.5 million. Then it went up to $5 million. Now it's up to $7 million today. I mean, she's is Oral Roberts' prayer tower still available? Maybe she should go to Oklahoma and go up into the prayer tower. And now Steve tells me that it's turning out that there's a law in Pennsylvania that if you want to recount, you have to file within a week. And of course, we're long beyond a week. And if they even if we're pretending that they could overturn the results in these 3 states, even if they did it in Michigan and Wisconsin, if they don't get Pennsylvania, he's still over 270. So I mean, can we stop with the foolishness?
No, they cannot. They're liberals. Just imagine how much worse it would have been if the media hadn't, just 3 weeks ago, we don't have to go back to ancient history, hadn't spent 2 weeks denouncing Donald Trump as a threat to democracy for not preemptively agreeing to accept the results of an election. Oh my gosh, they were hysterical about that. If we hadn't just been through that, I think that's part of the reason Hillary even conceded the next day. I think she would have pulled an Al Gore, but for her party and her media's own hysteria about how you absolutely must accept the results of an election.
Yeah, that was Hillary Clinton's own phrase, a threat to democracy, not to accept the results of the election.
Yeah.
that was then, this is now. It's 1984. This is worse than the Ministry of Truth. You know, you're supposed to have no memory whatsoever of what they said, you know, a matter of hours or days ago, you know? And
yes,
listen,
like I always say, with liberals, history begins today.
Yeah. Hey, I've got the Jill Stein tweet on Fidel Castro here. Have you seen this one? Fidel Castro was a symbol of the struggle for justice in the shadow of empire. Empire. Could we change? Could we edit that a little bit? He in the shadow of freedom or liberty.
Right. Right, and this is, again, our utterly consistent media. They're taking a short break from being terrified that Donald Trump is a dictator in order to praise Fidel Castro.
Yeah, you know what? They hated Maggie Thatcher, and they were glad that she was dead, but they love Fidel Castro, and they're claiming. How are they saying that he kept Cuba independent? And it was a client state first of the Soviet Union, then the Soviet Union collapsed, as all socialist utopias do. So then he became a ward of Hugo Chavez, the dictator of Venezuela, until his sordid regime collapsed.
Right. Speaking of which, a lot of people always make the argument, which I think is foolish, that, you know, it was Joan Jett that brought down the Iron Curtain. And, you know, with Cuba, you want to bring freedom to Cuba, they need to trade with Americans. We need free trade and free movement. Well, that didn't really help Venezuela, did it? No, what you see over and over again, a theme of Adios America, is you have this history coming out of the British Isles of the Magna Carta and the Glorious Revolution, and then here in America with the Declaration of Independence. Freedom, as de Tocqueville said, it's a wonderful thing, but it's a very hard thing to learn. And I really get annoyed with these often sort of libertarian twits who just think, you know, all we have to do is send Coca-Cola around the world and suddenly people understand the rule of law and, you know, constitutional freedoms and rights and obligations. No, it takes centuries to develop that, which, brings me back to immigration to this country and how the left is trying to destroy it for their own benefit.
Speaking of Coca-Cola, do you know who owned the Coca-Cola franchise in Havana before under the terrible dictatorship of Fuhilio, whatever his name was, Batista?
Batista.
Yeah, Batista. I don't know. I just can't pronounce his first name. By the way, that's like that's like he was like a shoplifter, and Fidel Castro was like Whitey Bulger. You know, I mean, it's just. I don't know how they can compare the two, but you know who owned it. But the two guys who owned the Coca-Cola franchise, the bottling franchise, Joe Kennedy and Morton Downey Sr.
Well, wow, that's good for Trivial Pursuits. Fantastic, Howie.
Yeah, that's I wonder if the Kennedys are going to come back now and try to reclaim their hegemony or whatever you call it, their patrimony. I don't know what the word is, but
well, I mean, now that all these Cubans have been living in the United States, I mean, I think if a lot of them, and I assume they still love their homeland, if they went back, they could bring freedom to the island, but it's not just trade on its own. That never does it. You need people who have some familiarity with the whole concept of a republic and rule of law.
Before you go, Ann, and I do appreciate you testing out the equipment. It looks like it worked pretty well there, but I want to play one cut. This is Andrea Mitchell. Hillary Clinton's favorite reporter. This is her take on Fidel Castro.
And he was a voracious reader, questioning me about politics and about the economy back in the U.S., and very, very aware of everything that was going on. Very, very smart and very wedded to his revolutionary ideology.
His revolutionary ideology.
You know, I always notice this about the left. They have a nuanced view of Fidel Castro, a nuanced view of Khrushchev, of Mao, of Stalin. The only people they never have a nuanced view of are people like Donald Trump. Yeah. There's no nuance there.
Yeah, he could put gays in prison if they came down with the HIV virus, and he's okay. Mike Pence says, "Hey, I'm in favor of traditional marriage. Burn him at the stake," right?
Right.
That's the way it goes.
Oh yeah, no, the hypocrisies never end when it comes to the left.
Ann, thanks for helping me out today. Always a pleasure, and it's great to see you, and I'm sure it was fun. I hope people were watching here on the on the Howie Cam and on Newsmax TV. Thank you, Ann. Next time you're there, we'll be together. Okay. Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks, Ann.
good, Howie.
All
Thank
right.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. 1-844-500-4242. I'm Howie Carr.
He didn't come here to be made sport of. Howie Carr.